Hi, I'm Andre Fizer. Don't mind the noise. We're still doing work here at Dominion Center here in North Houston, and we'll talk more about it in the coming weeks. But while we're doing work here today, I wanted to share some insight with you on the power of inspiration, especially in the world of being politically correct and wondering how we say things and how we do things. And in a world where we want to decipher at how powerful a minister is, whether male or female, whether we want to determine how well we say something in the world, and if I'm able to say this in the world, then I'm a true minister. But if I speak inspirationally without speaking more convicting, then I'm a watered down person. Well, I'm going to explain something to you. There is a power in inspiration. Inspiration is the new conviction. Christ, when he spoke or taught, he inspired you. He caused you to see a life that was better than what you were loving. He never really had to call out what you were doing, but he spoke a life that made you love what he said greater than what you were doing. And you naturally just evicted yourself from what you were doing. Whatever form of average life or mediocrity or sin or comfortability, whatever it was, inspiration from the divine made you love something greater than the mediocrity you were living in, and you went there. All of us, especially us African Americans, we come from a holiness perspective that made you feel bad about what you were doing without inspiring you into something, because we think feeling bad about it, conviction through feeling bad, is truth. We feel that conviction through making someone feel bad about what they're doing is true preaching, and inspiration is watered downness or watered down gospel. No, the gospel is life. The gospel is the discovery of real life. And when you discover something you are in love with, you will leave whatever average dimension you're living in. You would just leave it for something you love. But if I leave something because I felt bad about it, without discovering what I love, once I leave it, I'm going to return back to the thing that I felt bad about, and I'm going to find a way to tolerate it. And most of us, as quote-unquote believers or followers of Jesus or what have you, are learning to tolerate stuff we hate, and we don't really know what we love. Now, we know we love family, and we know we love jobs, and we know we love survival, but it's causing us to be destroyed in imagination and vision, and we're not able to move into our vision because we're busy living tolerable lives because we need to survive. But let me explain something. If you could either choose to be like Christ, or you could choose to be like Paul. You could choose to be like Christ, or you could choose to be like Peter. You could choose to be like Christ, or you could choose to be like Romans or Galatians or whatever. You understand? When Jesus was in this city, there was this guy by the name of Zacchaeus, who was a tax collector. And we all know, those of you who are scholars, you know when you were a tax collector, you were the scum of the earth. It was worse than the KKK. You were like, oh my God. It was worse than the KKK in Mississippi. Okay? It was like, oh my Lord. And so this guy by the name of Zacchaeus, heard of Jesus. And one thing about people who may not be enlightened to their identity, unenlightened people still know what's real. Everyone knows what's real. They may not like church or religion, but they know what's true. And so Zacchaeus climbed this tree. It was a little short fellow. And he climbed this tree, and it was a sycamore tree, and this tree didn't have any limbs on it. So Zacchaeus had to really assert himself because he was short, and he had to climb a tree with no limbs on it and hold on. So he put an effort to at least see who this Jesus was. And so Jesus was speaking to this crowd of people, and he saw Zacchaeus, and he knew his name, and that's the thing that caught him. Jesus knew his name. He said, Zacchaeus. He never said, dude, who are you in that tree? He already knew his name, and that's the thing about enlightenment and the divine. It knows the name of everybody because it's created everybody, regardless of what you are living in, regardless. And so Jesus inspired him by saying, hey, I'm going to come to your house today and eat. Jesus didn't say, you robbed people, you stole from people. He said, hey, I'm going to eat with you today. I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to eat lunch with you today. And Zacchaeus was like, oh my God. He said, look at everybody I stole from, everybody I was with, all the slaves, all the people I stole, all the women I'm screwing, all the people, and your mama too. I was with your mama. And all the stuff, all the money I took from your family, I'm going to give it back to him. Jesus didn't say nothing but I'm coming to you. You could choose to be like Christ, to be like Paul. Listen, we live in a world. It's not a matter that you can't say nothing, but you got to know how to see. See, inspiring people is not watered down. You understand? You have to know how to call a person's name that says, regardless of what you're living in, regardless, because a lot of us are living in mediocrity. You may not be living in obvious, blatant debauchery, but you may be living in fear of who you really are. And now we're in the world where we're trying to evaluate what sin is. Well, what about if you eat too much? What if you... And I'm like, this is enough. We're debating on what is right and wrong now. What if you're this? You might not be this, but you're this. You might not be this, but what if you don't believe? What if you judge people? What if it's like, calm down. When truth comes, whatever mediocrity or average life you are living, if it doesn't inspire you to despise the small space, regardless of the name of the space, it's not truth. When truth comes, it will inspire you to enlarge your borders. It's not up to you and I to wonder if people think they're getting over on God. God is God. It's not for you and I to wonder, well, I don't want people to think they can just do what they want. It don't have nothing to do with what you think or I think. God is God. But your job or identity as a son of God, not as a Christian, but as a byproduct of God, is to inspire, to let people know that life is beautiful. And when people see the beauty of their existence, they will naturally evict themselves from the small space. Mm-hmm. Inspiration is the new conviction. Not making me feel bad about the small house I live in. That's called pride. When you make me feel bad about my little house. When you make me feel bad about my little car with 3 tires and one of the tires is stolen. That's called pride. When you make me feel bad about the little house I'm in. But love is when you let me know you could expand these walls. You're smart enough to break these walls. You're smart enough to expand your borders. Do you guys follow me? I can't see you. People can see me? Yeah. So how inspiring are you? And if you think that inspirational tactics or methodologies of speech is watered down, you haven't found truth yet. Watered down is not making people feel bad about life. Watered down is not making people feel good. You understand? No. The truth isn't about making people feel bad about life. The truth is making people feel good about life to the point that they lead the little life. How good have you made someone feel? Goodness is not watered down. That's why he said with love and kindness. But we look at that love as though it's tolerance or weakness. No, with wisdom. With the love to give you greater, I draw you. With the love to give you more than the average, regardless of what the name of the average is. Because I know that you're so great. Let me give you the discipline and the reality. Let me show you that you're more than what you really are, regardless of what the R that you're doing is. You understand? Inspiration is the new conviction. Do you believe it? Do you believe that inspiration is the new conviction? Because when you inspire me, the conviction is different. To be inspired does convict. Inspiration makes me forget that I'm leaving little. Inspiration is a conviction. Inspiration is an inner conviction that allows you to love yourself while you are leaving what you hate. Inspiration allows you to love you in the midst of the foolishness you're in, and you love yourself so much you get out without knowing you're getting out. God is smart. You got to know that God is smart. A man with a withered hand. Jesus walked to this man with a withered hand and made the man forget that his hand was crooked. He said, give me your hand. And the guy just stretched his hand. Inspiration is when Jesus said, give me your life, and you forget that you messed up and you just start giving it to him. That's the new conviction. And Jesus has mastered that for years. When Jesus really got mad at people, it was religious people that caused people to forget who they were. Jesus got angry at religious people who forced people or compelled people to not see enlightenment, which means I'm going to teach you to the point that you don't see that you're greater. Jesus became more angry at people who taught God. He never looked at a person who was in sin and told them what their sin was. He never looked at an adulterer. He never looked at a this or that and said, you're this and this. He never said it. He never told them what they did, but he told religious people what they did. And he said, you're blind guides and you're foxes and you're blind dogs. You keep people from discovering the kingdom. You're blind to it, and you keep others from finding their inner self. Jesus hated religious people who held people captive from finding their inner self. Inspiration causes you to see yourself, because when you see yourself, you begin to see your time. And when you begin to see your time, you begin to see its waste. And when you begin to see its waste, you begin to see that I've been living in a little place with love and kindness. It's not a matter that I talk low or timid, but with the intent of love and to be kind. I've drawn you. You feel me? That's all I got to say. Inspiration is the new conviction. Oh, you don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe it. But I remember when I came up, if I did something wrong, I was taught to feel bad about myself till I almost hated myself. And I hated myself so much that I didn't know that God loved me. And so you become obligatory to a religious practice. And if I keep doing this practice, God likes me. So when I began to discover that I was a son of God and I was the literal thought of God, people called me a heretic and said I was a cult by showing people that they were who God was. Because it's easier to be a Christian than to be an offspring of God. Because if I do these things, I'm good. But if I say I am the fullness of God, then I'm prideful. Religion taught me how to hate myself. But the kingdom showed me how to love myself. And when I begin to love myself, when I discover average things about my life, I just begin to soar above the average and move into the fullness. How many of y'all understand what I'm saying? I'm about to end, but I can't see you. But do you understand me? The more I love myself, the more I get rid of the small. So I don't need to talk about what people are doing. I don't need to talk about if you're lying or cussing. But I know that if you are sneaking through windows, because sneaking through windows was the thing. You understand? We're going to sneak through a window. But if I help you to see who you are, maybe you'll start hating your average space regardless of what the name of the space is, and you will trade it for a greater space called the treasures, called the kingdom, called divine life. I'm Andre Fizer. Peace.